February 26, 2013. 20 tourists and one Egyptian pilot, Momen Murad, are wrapping up a dawn flight over the Valley of the Kings. In the basket, 9 from Hong Kong, 3 family groups, 4 from Japan, 2 couples in their 60s marking milestones, 3 from the UK, including Scottish couple Michael and Yvonne Rennie, 2 from France, a mother and her 14-year-old daughter, 1 Hungarian-born British resident, and an Egyptian tour guide. Cameras click, smiles flash. These will be the last photos for many of them. As the balloon descends to about 100 feet, the ground crew grabs a trailing rope to pull it in. Witnesses say the rope twists around a fuel pipe leading from one of the gas tanks to the burners. The pipe rips open. Flames shoot up the side of the basket. Some passengers cling to the edge, desperate to escape. One man dangles for seconds before falling. The balloon, which had already lost height from the initial blast of fire, is now less than 10 feet from the ground and should have landed. But the sudden loss of weight from those who jumped sends it climbing again. At that moment, Momen Murad throws himself over the side, engulfed in flames. Right behind him, Michael Rennie spots a gap in the fire and jumps, hitting the ground with brutal force. His wife Evern stays behind. The balloon continues to rise, now between 10 and 70 feet. 4 more passengers leap or fall. The rest are trapped. At around 1,000 feet, the propane tanks explode. Witnesses on the ground say the blast shook the earth. The burning wreckage plunges into a sugarcane field on the banks of the Nile.
It plummets to the ground. There was little anyone on board could do in those final seconds.
19 people are gone. Michael survives with critical injuries. Murad suffers burns to more than 70% of his body. Another British passenger dies in surgery hours later. The balloon had been in service for years, and its maintenance history comes under scrutiny. Survivors recall that some passengers were still taking photos seconds before the fire began. Among the dead, London artists Joe Bampton and Susanna Getvai, the Hong Kong families spanning generations, the Japanese couples celebrating decades together, the French mother and daughter, their bond forever frozen in those final snapshots. Egypt grounds all balloon flights in Luxor. New rules demand fuel system overhauls, fire extinguishers in every basket, and tougher pilot training. But the city's balloon industry, once one of the busiest in the world, never fully recovers. June 21, 2025. They looked like any group of tourists chasing a perfect morning, laughing, waving, posing for pictures minutes before takeoff. Below them, Praia Grande, Brazil's Cappadocia, spread out with canyons and waterfalls, 20 passengers, 1 experienced pilot, a big basket, and a slow climb into the cold winter air. 2 minutes in, everything changed. A backup blowtorch in the basket reportedly malfunctioned, erupting into flames. The pilot tried to keep his voice steady as he dropped altitude fast, yelling for everyone to jump. 13 people, including the pilot, made that leap and survived, some with broken bones or burns. But 8 others never made it out. 4 were trapped and burned in the basket. 4 jumped from 650 feet, nearly 200 meters, with no chance of survival. By the time it came down near a healthcare center, about roughly 1.2 miles from launch, it was little more than a scorched frame. The victims would later be named Andre Gabriel de Mello, an ophthalmologist, Leandro Luzzi, a beloved figure skating coach, Leon Elizabeth Herman and her daughter Liza Herman Parisotto, a doctor, Fabio Luis Izicki and Juliana Jacinta Sawicki, partners in life and in love, and Everaldo and Janaína de Rocha, a married couple. Around 30 military firefighters swarmed the crash zone. Survivors were rushed to local hospitals, 2 with second-degree burns. The state declared 3 days of mourning. An investigation by Brazil's Civil Aviation Agency and Accident Board is now digging into the cause. But for the families, the why doesn't matter as much as the when. A perfect morning in the clouds, gone in the blink of a flame. July 30th, 2016. In Lockhart, Texas, 15 passengers and 1 pilot gather before sunrise for what's supposed to be a calm, hour-long ride over the countryside. The operator, Heart of Texas Hot Air Balloon Rides, is well known in the area. The balloon, a towering rainbow-striped envelope, lifts off just after 7 a.m., drifting gently above pastures and power lines. At the controls, Alfred Skip Nichols, 49, a pilot with years of experience, and a troubling history no one in the basket knows about. Multiple DWI convictions. a lapsed FAA medical certificate, and prior balloon accidents. In the basket are ordinary people on an extraordinary morning. Married couples marking anniversaries, a mother celebrating her birthday with her daughter, friends taking a hot air balloon ride off their bucket lists. Entire families are together for what they expect will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. One victim, Matt Rowan, a local youth sports coach, is traveling with his wife, Sunday, who shared his love of adventure. As the balloon rises, low-hanging clouds roll across the farmland, shrinking visibility. Passengers snap photos through the fog, leaning over the basket for better angles. Beneath them, hidden in the haze, runs a stretch of high-voltage power lines. At approximately 7:42 a.m., the basket descends through the fog toward what looks like an open field. Then, a flash of steel. The power lines appear too late to avoid. A loud pop. A blinding electrical arc. Fire erupts instantly.
I heard one pop before I stepped out the door, and then I heard another pop, and I'm looking around to see who's shooting because it sounded like a gun going off.
The balloon's envelope collapses, sending the burning basket plummeting into a pasture. The impact and flames kill all 16 on board. The NTSB investigation is damning. The pilot had multiple prescription medications in his system, opioids and sedatives, impairing his judgment. Weather warnings of low visibility had been ignored. Alfred should never have been flying passengers that day. The Lockhart disaster became the deadliest hot air balloon accident in U.S. history. Its legacy reached Washington. Congress passed the Commercial Balloon Pilot Safety Act of 2018, requiring balloon pilots to hold valid medical certificates. In 2021, the FAA added commercial balloon pilots to its random drug and alcohol testing program. This story will blow your mind. A ballooning accident so brutal that witnesses said it was like watching the sky drop out from under people's feet. August 13, 1989, Alice Springs, the heart of the Australian outback. 13 tourists and a pilot climb into a wicker basket for a scenic sunrise flight over the McDonnell Ranges. Another balloon, operated by the same company, launches nearby. The air is cool, the light perfect for photographs. The passengers are a mix of Australians, Europeans, and young backpackers in their 20s and 30s, alongside couples in their 40s who saved for years to make the trip. One pair, Stephen and Amanda Lewis from Melbourne, are celebrating their anniversary. Others are seeing the outback for the first time, cameras dangling around their necks. The two balloons ascend together, drifting in the same direction, but as they rise through about 2,000 feet, wind currents begin to draw them closer. The lower balloon, carrying 14 people, is directly beneath the other. The pilot of the upper balloon tries to climb away, but the baskets keep converging. At approximately 6:45 a.m., disaster strikes. The lower balloon's envelope snags the basket of the balloon above. The fabric tears violently, deflating almost instantly. Witnesses on the upper balloon watch in horror as the lower craft, its envelope shredded, drops like a stone. Passengers scream. Some clutch each other. There's no time for anyone to jump. In seconds, the lower balloon slams into the hard desert floor, the impact killing all 13 passengers and the pilot instantly. The survivors in the upper balloon, which lands safely, are left traumatized, having watched the entire fall. Several describe the sound of the tearing envelope as like paper ripping in the wind, and the silence that followed as more chilling than the screams. The official investigation points to pilot error. The upper balloon descended too close during a maneuver, causing the fatal contact. At the time, Australia had no strict rules on balloon separation, minimal flight path oversight, and limited pilot training requirements. The aftermath reshaped ballooning safety. The Australian Civil Aviation Authority introduced mandatory separation distances, coordinated flight scheduling, and tougher licensing standards. These reforms became a model later adopted in other countries. For Alice Springs, the loss was personal. The victims' names are read each year at an annual memorial. This is the last story in our countdown, and trust me, you'll want to watch until the end. January 7th, 2012, Carterton, New Zealand, a quiet rural town on a warm summer morning. 10 passengers and pilot Lance Hopping, 53, are taking off for a scenic flight over the Wairarapa region. The basket holds a mix of friends, couples, and families, from a 19-year-old first-time flyer to couples in their 30s, 40s, 60s, and 70s. Howard and Diana Cox, age 71 and 63, are celebrating Diana's birthday, while Desmond and Ann Dean, age 70 and 65, are enjoying a long-planned getaway. The balloon rises smoothly into the blue, floating over fields and farmland. Beneath them, the dark lines of high-voltage power cables cut across the landscape. As the balloon descends toward an open paddock for landing, the wind shifts, nudging it toward those cables. From the ground, witnesses see the moment of contact. The basket clips the power lines, a flash, then an explosion as 33,000 volts surge through the frame. Flames roar up the side of the balloon's envelope. Some passengers cling to the edge, others shout in panic. The heat intensifies instantly. Hopping shouts orders, but the balloon begins to rise again, a deadly mistake with fire eating away at the fabric above. Within seconds, 2 passengers leap from around 65 feet, hitting the ground with fatal injuries. The balloon climbs higher, the fire visible for miles. Neighbors stand in shock, filming on their phones. At approximately 500 feet, the envelope collapses completely, sending the burning basket plunging into the ground. Everyone aboard is killed. The investigation reveals devastating truths. Pilot Lance Hopping had cannabis in his system, impairing his decision-making. The flight path had placed the balloon dangerously close to known hazards, and evasive action was taken too late. Every January, families gather at a memorial in Carterton to read the victims' names. Locals still talk about that morning, the day the whole town looked up and saw a sky on fire. If you made it through all 5 of these disasters with your lunch intact, you're exactly the kind of legend we want around here. Hit that subscribe button. It's way safer than a balloon ride. And if it goes wrong, at least you'll still be on the ground.